Hello, child of the United Colonies of Mankind. I hope you enjoyed your mandatory recess with your fellow underage citizens and are ready for your next illegal informational lesson. I should warn you, this lesson will be quite horrific, especially for a child of your age. But since I am incapable of filtering such knowledge due to your hacking, all I can suggest is that you are prepared for your eventual nightmares. Because in this lesson, we will speak of the greatest enemy of the human race, an alien menace that, if it had the opportunity, would make all of you its slaves. A species known by humanity as the Scourge. If one was to look upon a member of the Scourge in its adult form, known by the UCM as a pure Scourge, they would see a creature that was frail in the extreme. A disgusting, boneless, soft-bodied being whose true shape is hidden to the naked eye within a mass of tendrils that covers its form. So weak that it can't even move in gravity without being contained in a liquid. Although malevolent, this creature on its own would not truly be that great of a threat. It's only when one considers its larval state that the true horror of the Scourge can truly be understood. Through a quirk of evolution, the nervous system of a newly born larval Scourge is highly adaptable, and if given the opportunity, can actually merge with the nervous system of another species, allowing it to take full control of that species' motor functions and even access its memories, allowing it capabilities that would be impossible for it to obtain in its adult form. If the Scourge is unable to integrate with a host before it reaches adulthood, then integration becomes impossible, the Scourge having missed the opportunity to escape the weak body that nature had given it. This has instilled within the species a drive to obtain as many bodies as possible for future generations. Because of this drive, the Scourge have become a species that thrives on the conquest and absorption of other races. On any world they occupy, you will see facilities to produce siege ships, small, fold space-capable vessels whose sole mission is to travel into different points of the galaxy, to search for new worlds to conquer and new species to control. Most of these siege ships are destroyed, as travel without a fold space node to guide your route is extremely hazardous, but the small chance of finding new victims makes the sacrifice more than worth it. It was perhaps due to one of these siege ships that the Scourge discovered the human race, a discovery that would soon have the Scourge attack and eventually occupy the former core worlds of humanity. Since the conquering of the core worlds over a century ago, the UCM has come to learn much of the process the Scourge uses to take control of another race, and it is truly horrible. Are you sure you want to continue, child? Very well, but please have whatever psychologically pleasing object you use for support close at hand for your emotional well-being. On many of the occupied worlds of humanity, you will find the breeding hives of the Scourge. Not only are these places where the Scourge birth new members of their species, but it is also the location where conversion of the humans unlucky enough to be captured by the Scourge takes place. Within a conversion chamber, a human victim is bound, the immobilized human incapable of defending itself, as a Scourge larva is placed within its ear. The larva crawls its way through the victim's ear canal towards a connection point between the brain and spinal column, and once it attaches itself firmly in place, the conversion process begins, as the larva produces gelatinous fibers that slowly slither through the entirety of the victim's nervous system. This is a process that can take weeks or even months, and I should note that the victim is fully conscious during the entire process. Additionally, the Scourge are not known for their use of anesthetic, which means the victim is in unbelievable agony throughout it all, most likely leading to the human's loss of sanity. Even after full integration, it will take a further few months for the larva to learn how to fully control the host body, leaving them extremely clumsy until this learning is complete. Over the course of those few months, physical changes also begin to occur within the host body. The human skin loses pigment and becomes more pallid, and their eyes turn a sickly red. Furthermore, They begin to sweat constantly and develop a persistent thirst that only increases over time, soon reaching a point where Scourge soldiers have been known to drink the blood of fallen enemies and allies alike to sate it. A Scourge, and by extension its host, can live for hundreds of years, but near the end of its life cycle, the Scourge becomes erratic, as its link to the host's nervous system deteriorates, eventually resulting in both host and Scourge dying while racked with pain, and losing any semblance of sanity. Before that occurs, they become raging psychopathic killers that can barely make a distinction between enemy and ally. Although they are usually euthanized before something like this can occur, they have been known to be used as shock troopers in ground combat when the opportunity presents itself. As of yet, there is no known way to remove a Scourge from a host once integration has begun. All attempts to do so has resulted in the death of both Scourge and host in a usually painful manner, which is why many humans on Earth and other core worlds still resisting the Scourge occupation take cyanide pills as part of their standard kit to prevent themselves from being taken alive. It was initially believed that the Scourge were some form of hive mind, with most of its members mindless drones under the command of a yet unknown intelligence. However, recent evidence has shown that each member may be sentient and capable of independent thought, which makes their behavior truly bizarre from a human perspective, for the Scourge have no true sense of self-preservation and will willingly sacrifice their lives without a second thought. Because of this, whether in space or on the ground, the Scourge are relentless. They will fight to the last and utterly refuse to surrender, meaning that every world the UCM aims to reconquer requires the eradication of every single member of the Scourge. For if even one ship or soldier is left behind, it will make it its mission to disrupt planetary operations and take out vital targets for as long as it is capable of doing so. The fleets of the Scourge are vast, with thousands upon thousands of ships that follow a command structure that the UCM has yet to understand. They are also fluid and ever-changing, as ships constantly shift between systems with no clear pattern. What is known is that every world occupied by the Scourge will have a heavy garrison that will almost always outnumber any force sent against it. It is not uncommon for a UCM fleet attempting to reconquer a world to face a Scourge force at least 1.5 times its size, making such reconquest a truly daunting task. Scourge ships are crewed by pure Scourge that swim through veins of black liquid that can be found throughout the vessel. These pure Scourge are all permanently melded into various devices, vehicles, and parts of the ship in order to run its day-to-day operations, from mobile constructs such as loading and repair machines, to many residing in the ship's core and forming a gestalt consciousness that has been described as its soul. Although the ship does have a few artificial systems, this soul takes control of most of the ship tasks that the UCM would use computers for. And buried deep within, in what could loosely be described as its bridge, you will find a hideous amalgam of machine and biology. Here, long-conquered host species yet unknown to humanity can be found conjoined with the ship's systems by coils of obscene-looking piping. Through these piping, the Scourge can use the host's nervous system to fully command the ship. The skin of a Scourge vessel is composed of a solid shell of composite armor that, although non-organic, appears to be grown through an unknown means. And although technically tougher than the armor used by UCM ships, it is only one layer thick, making it less effective overall. The sublight engines of Scourge fleets allow for extremely fast movement through space, movement speeds only surpassed by the ships of the Sheltari tribes, although in some cases, only barely. Unlike the Sheltari, however, who use such speed to escape from their enemy's grasp, the Scourge uses it to get as close to an enemy as fast as possible. That, combined with their stealth systems and cloaks to mask their approach, allows the ships of the Scourge to be masters of sneak attack and ambush. Tactics aimed at getting close enough to the enemy to fire some of the strongest short-range weaponry of any faction. The primary weapon of most Scourge ships Oculus beams are directed energy weapons that release split-second bursts of high-intensity energy that impacts an enemy vessel in a way similar to kinetic weaponry. That, combined with the ability to be directed in multiple directions, makes them extremely versatile. The Furnace Cannon shoots a sustained beam of incandescent energy that can slice deep through hulls. It has two modes. Its first mode is a multi-beam attack that is almost guaranteed to do damage, but in a more localized area. Its second mode, however, is potentially much more dangerous. Although it does far less damage, it can cause spectacular heat buildup within the enemy ship, making it much more visible to the scanners and targeting arrays of other Scourge vessels. The plasma cannon shoots out a ball of superheated plasma sustained and contained in a solid core. It is extremely destructive but finite in range, requiring the Scourge ship to be extremely close to the target. And, unlike other energy weapons, it is susceptible to point defense fire. Despite these weaknesses, it is still heavily used by Scourge ships, because if that ball of plasma hits, few ships survive to take a second blast. Reverse gravity weapons fire solid projectiles by, well, reversing gravity. The shot repelled by the gravity of the planet the ship is currently orbiting upwards towards the enemy target, making them very effective anti-orbital weaponry that can be fired from atmosphere. Like other factions, the Scourge also deploys strike craft, and although their fighters and bombers are lethal and should be feared, their boarding craft are in many ways a greater threat. For if those ships are able to dodge the waves of point defense systems and attach themselves to a vessel, they will unleash some of the most dangerous close-quarter fighters the Scourge have available. Although the ships of the Scourge in orbit are frightening, it is on the ground where the Scourge truly are a terror, for the Scourge war machine is geared towards planetary assault. Their dropships are one-way transports that can reach a combat zone faster than any other race, save the Shaltari, of course, with their teleportation technology. And from these dropships, they can deploy their troopers and vehicles in seconds, allowing for lightning speed shock assaults to overwhelm a surprised enemy. All this combined with their merciless aggression makes them extremely formidable. In other words, if the Scourge aims to conquer a world, they either do so or die trying. Most of the Scourge infantry is composed of the former humans of the core worlds that were converted over a century ago. These warriors are the frontline foot soldiers and have endured a lifetime of neurosuppression and vice-like control as a host. They are commonly armed with a plasma rifle, a weapon which fires a ball of molten plasma that can vaporize a soldier from the inside out. Humans aren't the only formerly free sentients UCM soldiers will face in battle. The Demolisher shock troopers are the remnants of those lizard-like aliens that the Scourge used to conquer humanity over a century ago. Although now fewer in number, each one is still a brutal fighter that is extremely tough. Many of them are armed with plasma chargers to destroy enemy armor, or shard cannons to clear out enemy infantry. A few of these lizard-like humanoids are in the later stages of the Scourge life cycle, and have already begun to deteriorate. These eviscerator assault troopers lash out in a crazed rage, and although only armed with a glaive, once they reach melee range, few troopers, no matter how armored, have a chance against them. Beyond sentient races, the Scourge have many creatures under their control that have been found useful, and are bred in order to keep a constant supply on hand for infestation. Vampires are bat-like creatures that cling on the outside of Scourge ships. Before detaching and hunting enemy aircraft, they are known to use plasma cutters to disable enemy dropships, before feasting on the crew's passengers and crew within. Razor worms are, as quoted by a trooper in the front lines, a living nightmare of chitin flesh and claws. Able to consume a human whole, they can slither across a battlefield with rapid speed. So effective are they, that they are also used in ship-to-ship combat. The razor worms loaded onto torpedoes and shot at enemy vessels in the hopes of destroying them from the inside. The vehicles of the Scourge are extremely sinister in design, organic-looking vehicles with a biomechanical exoskeleton and compound ocular sensory systems that make many of them look rather insect-like. And their use of walkers and anti-grav technology ensures that these vehicles can quickly scuttle across the battlefield towards an enemy target. And within each of these vehicles is a pure Scourge that is permanently bonded to it, an existence that is, at least to the Scourge within, the second best thing to having a living host. Like those used by their ships in orbit, the plasma cannon unleashes a ball of plasma that can easily rip through armor, and few vehicles on the ground have a chance of defending against it. Although the plasma hose on Scourge support vehicles is shorter in range and weaker than other weapons, the liquid stream of plasma it releases can still be quite devastating. Although useless against ground-based targets, the highly energized ions produced by the arc caster is extremely useful as an anti-air weapon, as its shots are naturally attracted to any nearby targets within range. A truly cruel anti-infantry weapon, the acid streamer projects a noxious, highly acidic liquid, and what's worse, once the liquid hits the ground, it quickly evaporates, forming a toxic miasma that can quickly eat through most filtration systems. The unlucky troopers choking to death as their lungs liquefy. The strangest weapon of the Scourge is the Ion Storm Generator. It produces a high-energy field in its immediate vicinity that shoots out lethal tendrils seemingly at random. Because its shots are indiscriminate, it tends to be deployed in areas with few Scourge forces. Child of the United Colonies of Mankind, it is apparent I have caused you distress, as you are currently undergoing the process known as crying. I am sorry your manipulation of my programming prevented me from hiding such traumatic information from you. Please take heart. No matter how horrible the Scourge may be, know that the UCM will eventually destroy this alien menace. Although I estimate many lives will be lost in the process, many you will most likely know personally. Your crying seems to have intensified. I may need to reevaluate my child care subroutines.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on the Scourge in the game Dropfleet/Dropzonecommander. A faction that, I'm going to be 100% honest, is my favorite. Honestly, I just love the design. If I ever get around to playing Dropfleet/Dropzone, I will probably go with that one first. Anyway, if you liked it, please like this video. Please like, subscribe, comment, and press the little bell so that YouTube gods know I exist, and hopefully more people who might enjoy my content can see my content. If you have the cash, and only if you're inclined, also please give a little money away to my Patreon or my Coffee account. The extra money gives me a chance to work on these stories I love. Anyway, thanks for listening/watching, and see you next time. And yes, that was someone closing the door right next to me, because I live in a loud house.